is Rogers TV.
Hello and welcome to the special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program dedicated to advising our community of the resources available to them during this pandemic. My name is Merton, and before I welcome our guests to the program today, for those of you who watch the program regularly, you know that I like to say a few words of thank you at the very beginning. So in the past, I've extended a thank you, of course, to our frontline workers, our medical officer of health, public health unit, all of our cashiers, our delivery truck drivers, and many, many more. Today, though, I would like to read an excerpt from an author, Allison Wines. It's a letter that she sent, and Francesca Dobbin, who is the executive director of United Way Bruce Gray, kindly shared it with me. So I'm going to read some excerpts from that letter, and then I'm going to add some comments briefly at the end. There is an invisible group of people who aren't being recognized, who are working intensely to keep the world turning, to make sure that those on the front lines have the support they need and those at home have something to go back to when we get to the other side of this. Who are you? You're accountants and bankers, restructuring finances and debt to help small businesses stay afloat. You're trade managers negotiating frantically to get hand sanitizer and face masks into the country. You're consultants supporting clients through massive changes, unsure if you'll get paid for the work that you're doing when it's all over, but doing it anyway because it matters. You're communicators trying to find the words to explain a crisis the likes of which has never been seen to your organization's staff and the community. You are trying to do this while homeschooling your kids, with babies that won't stop crying through conference calls, while feeling anxious about elderly parents in nursing homes. Maybe no one is putting signs in their windows for accountants and administrators, but what you do matters, because you are holding a place for the world to return to normal. My words to you are this: you are not invisible, and our message back to you is thank you. Your contributions are greatly appreciated, and we send to you a most heartfelt and sincere thank you for what you are doing for us and for our community. And on that note, I want to thank our guests today who are joining me to talk about more initiatives for the community to help each other. I have with me Phyllis Lovell, who is the CEO, I have to read this so I don't get it wrong, CEO of Bruce Gray Child and Family Services, and Paula Carnakie, Program Manager, the Women's Center. And my understanding today is that you're going to be explaining all about the initiative #HereToHelpGB and other information you'd like to share with the community. Thank you both for being on the program today, and I'm most interested to hear more about your initiative. So who's going first?
I think I'll take that honor. Thanks, Carol.
My pleasure.
We, as an organization that serves families, we have been really concerned about children at home for the past 7 or 8 weeks, and the kind of stress that that's placed on parents. Also really want to do a huge shout out to teachers who every single day of the school year are in their classrooms, building relationships with kids, supporting them, helping them, really serving as a very big protective factor in their lives. And so they are always on the front line of knowing which kids are struggling, which families are having a difficult time, and their absence, the closing of classrooms has created a lot of worry for somebody who does the work that I do. So I wanted to reach out to the community and encourage people to be supportive and caring of families, and particularly of families who have multiple challenges, maybe struggle with income security, food security, maybe laid off because of COVID-19. I wanted to do that outreach, but I wanted our voice to be louder and stronger. And I wanted to partner with the two women's services in counties Bruce and Grey. And I also did outreach to police because we are all still working. Our services are all still operating. And I wondered if our shared voice would help our community to think about families and to think about women who might not be safe at home, and to think about how risk might be increased because of our need to self-isolate through the pandemic. So that's the start of Here to Serve. What we did when we came together was talk about an initiative that started in Ottawa between the Child Protection Agency there and police, and think about whether we could build on it here, which we decided we could. And so our message from many partners now, from many family serving, women serving, men serving organizations is we're still here. We are still able to support and assist you, and we want you to let us know if you're one of those people that needs that support at this time.
So I just want to clarify, I hope you don't mind, I always have questions. So, yeah. So I had read the media release that about the initiative. That's really what sparked me to say, we need to get this on the program for sure. So obviously it's Bruce Grey Child and Family Services, Owen Sound Police Service, Saugeen Shores Police Service, West Grey Police Service, Hanover Police Service, Ontario Provincial Police, the Canadian Mental Health Association, Grey Bruce Mental Health and Addiction Services, 211 Women's House serving Bruce and Grey, Women's Centre Grey Bruce, have all come together to launch this grassroots campaign. That's a remarkable group of people providing this service. How are they involved? Everyone has a skill set and a talent. So maybe you can walk me through how you provide the service in the restrictions regarding distancing, gatherings. We're in a different world these days.
Yeah. Paula, do you want to start with services for women?
Certainly, I can do that. Thank you so much, Phyllis. So the Women's Centre Grey Bruce has been in existence since 1982, and we provide supports to women and their children who are fleeing violent situations. So violence against women is what we are presently, that's our mandate. So we currently have a 20-bed shelter, but because of social distances in this time, we're now saying we can take 8 women at the shelter. But that's not the total things that we're doing. Even though we can only take 8 at the shelter, we are creating space elsewhere to ensure that anyone who needs support at this time, that is women and children fleeing violence who need support at this time, will get the support they need. So we have our outreach staff is working from home, but of course the shelter staff have to be on site at all times. So a great big thank you to all the staff at the Women's Centre who continue to work and who are always willing to come out and support our residents and our clients. Of course, we could not be open and survive without them. So thank you again.
So what I'm hearing from a lot of organizations that I chat to is everyone, the word pivot keeps coming up again and again, that people are pivoting in their service delivery. And you've just described one way of pivoting for the shelter beds, that you're still providing the service, but just in different locations or different ways. Tell me how it works for the outreach workers who don't have that one-on-one, that they may be using telephone. What's their experience and how do they find it works for them?
So the outreach workers, of course, they have to be as flexible as possible in this time. So yes, they are reaching out to our clients via telephone, and we are offering supports, video conferencing supports as well. because sometimes when you speak only over the phone, that's not personal enough.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for them to have the video conferencing certainly creates a more intimate relationship there. And that is what they need at this time.
Yes, yes. So the demand for the services, we are in a different type of stressful environment for sure. People are housed in a tighter environment. We can't get out and about the way we normally would. Are we seeing, or are you more concerned about what you are seeing regarding women and children in our community currently? Is there more demand on the service?
So what we found in the initial 2 weeks is that the demand was actually down. So we were having less calls and less persons needing our support. But then that could simply be because of what was happening in the world at large. But now what I find is that there's been an uptake in the numbers of calls that we've been receiving in terms of persons wanting support. And that does not necessarily mean that they want to come into the shelter, but they need telephone support or video conferencing support. So they always need to find out information. What should they do, or what can they do should they decide that they are leaving their partners or leaving the situation that they're currently in? Are we able to support them the way they need us to support them? And of course, we will tailor our whatever services that we're providing, we have to tailor it to the individual client that comes to us.
Yeah, for sure. Phyllis, from your perspective, what are you experiencing throughout this whole process around the demand on services and also about the networking that's happening?
So there are some interesting things to make note of. Referrals to Bruce Grey Child and Family Services have dropped, and that's not a surprise because teachers are primary sources of concern about how kids are doing. So we're missing them a lot, and we'll be very happy when teachers are back face-to-face with kids. And in the meantime, we hope they're calling us about kids that they're worried about. We serve at any given time about 430 families across the region who are struggling with challenges. We are seeing more stress in those families because there's more economic stress, there's more income insecurity, there's more food insecurity. And so our staff who are still working and still seeing families face to face when it's appropriate and safe to do so are concerned and trying to make sure that community supports are in place to help families in those circumstances. We know when we think about youth, and we often think about little children, babies, toddlers, preschoolers, they don't pick up the phone, they don't do outreach for support and help. But if you talk to a service like West for Youth Online, which is a digital counseling service for youth, they will tell you that the demand on their service has increased and has increased quite significantly. And when we think about that, that will make lots of sense, I think, to most parents, because adolescents are meant to be really social creatures. They're meant to be out with friends. They're meant to be out doing things in the community. And they've had some really disappointing things happen. No grade 8 trip, no prom, no graduation, or we think graduations will likely be canceled. So a lot of things that are important to teenagers that are rites of passage may not happen under COVID-19. And we're worried about how kids are coping with that, how they're managing from a mental health perspective. And so part of this Here to Help campaign is intended to get the message out that even though these are very unusual times, the women's shelter is still open. West for Youth is still connecting with kids. Keystone is still accepting referrals. The Canadian Mental Health Association is still connecting with men who are traditionally part of the men's program. And we want to really kind of blast that across our entire region and encourage people to get the support that they need, knowing that every single one of us is probably struggling with some aspect of this experience, with some of the social disconnection that's happened, and to need support and help is a very normal experience through this pandemic that we're dealing with.
I'm finding that on the news release or the media release, you had identified that there are some numbers for help, and it sounds like each one of those has a slightly different function. I'm wondering if you'd mind just clarifying a little bit. The one that was new to me was the tech support line for women in crisis, and I wasn't aware of that until I read this. So it starts at 211. So maybe if you could just go through the different numbers and how they can help individuals, that would be great. So 211 was the first one.
Yeah, so 211 is the most fantastic clearinghouse. They have stayed up to date and oriented to our community in the best way possible, and they will help anyone get to the service that they need quickly, smoothly, efficiently, whether that's food support, whether that's economic support, whether that's a form of counseling. So 211 is an easy number to remember, and we're really trying to encourage the use of 211 across the region. We listed the Kids Helpline so that's part of the outreach for youth. West for Youth Online, the website, so that young people know to connect there. People who are concerned about unsafe children should call our organization because we are still operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Paula, I'll let you talk about the text line because it's a very cool service.
Certainly. So we have the text line in place previously for just the existing clients at the shelter, but we've expanded that to now include persons who are out in the community who are unable to make a telephone call because probably their partner who's abusing them is right there in the household. So we've introduced the text line to all persons in Bruce Grey and of course any surrounding areas who also need our support. And that number is 226-974-0755. So anyone who is unable to, whether it's just because they don't have credit on their phone, they're still able to send out a text to us. Mm-hmm. And we are also available 24 hours a day. We have staff who man that text line constantly. We've actually seen an increase in the usage of that service. So that's a good thing that we've been able to offer it to community members.
I know that in the short term, we're certainly focused on getting through this. You know, how long will it go on is the main thing, but everyone is doing all that they can to be creative, to pivot and get through this. I'm wondering, Phyllis, if you have concerns about the children as they move through and it turns out that they have longer term reactions to missing the rites of passage of certain events, or, you know, I know it's early days to even be thinking that far, but I'm wondering as we all go through this, there is an impact for every single person, and wondering what your thoughts are for the kids.
So one of the incredible experiences that we've had in the province of Ontario is the opportunity to hear from our Italian colleagues, the staff in Italy who support vulnerable families, children and youth. And we know from their experience that there's a fair bit of trauma associated with the experience of COVID-19. There's anxiety, there's fear about illness, and fear not just for yourself, but for your grandparents or your family members who are vulnerable because they have other illnesses. And our colleagues in Italy have been encouraging us to understand that most people will need some help to recover from trauma, and should expect that that's a normal experience that comes with a pandemic, and should be willing to reach out for support, and should see their extended family, the people they love, their friends, as a network that can support multiple people through this very unusual time. And so we're getting ready as a staff to be responsive to needs on an ongoing basis. We're really going to encourage families to step forward and get the kind of help that they need to recover well from this experience. And I know that teachers, educators are thinking about this. Daycare centers are thinking about this. So I think we'll have good support in our community because we are a community that collaborates well together. We find innovative solutions because we're rural and we don't have a density of services that some urban areas have. I hope that we will continue to be really supportive of each other and really engaged with each other so that, what Paula learns at the shelter can inform the work we do at Bruce Grey Child and Family Services, and what Canadian Mental Health Association is learning is shared with Keystone, so that how we support families is really congruent and consistent across the region. We're known for our ability to collaborate. It's a well-earned descriptor, and I have no reason to think that we won't continue post wave one to work with each other in a good way so that we help families the best way possible.
I'm wondering what lessons already you both have learned about these new initiatives, things that surprised you, things you weren't anticipating. Any thoughts on that? The text line being more used, I'm thinking might be...
Certainly that certainly have been a good response for us in terms of more persons using that kind of service. Yeah. And of course, it's a good thing that we have it because some person would probably not have reached out if they were just having to call. They feel more comfortable texting sometimes than to actually speaking to a person one-on-one. Yes.
From your perspective, obviously there's a need for this, and you mentioned post-wave one, Phyllis. Now, how many waves are we talking here?
It depends.
But that's a really great expression, and I'm going to borrow that in the future, if you don't mind. From serving the children in the area as well, how can the community help both of your organizations? So certainly the issue for women and children and specifically for children. Here's your opportunity to ask for community support, whether it's funding or anything else. How can we help you in the good work you're doing?
Well, I would say we need the community to be the eyes and ears of safety and to express concern to people in your circle, to make inquiries about how you're coping, to normalize a conversation about how's your mental health. We're probably not afraid to ask about people's physical health. Did anybody in your family get sick? How are you folks doing? Can we normalize inquiries about how people are coping from a mental health perspective? And can we normalize encouragement to reach out and get support in many, many practical ways, as well as perhaps that more formal way when you're reaching out to a service and actually engaging in some counseling or some support around how this has affected you. I've been encouraging people who may have never experienced food insecurity in their lives to think about a place like the Salvation Army Food Bank in Owen Sound as an incredibly positive way that they can be supported through a very unusual time. And I think that's one of the lessons learned to me through this pandemic is a sense of community is really important, and for everyone to feel concerned about the citizens of the community, whether it's for economic recovery for small businesses or whether it's how families are coping, is a good thing and the mark of a strong community.
Certainly, and to add on to that, I would also encourage neighbors to encourage their neighbors, if they're seeing where they need to reach out for support, tell them there's nothing wrong with asking for help, because help is there. And if they're aware of that, they'll be probably more willing to pick up the phone and call and ask. So we're here, and we're here to support everyone who needs it as much as we can.
Where does the funding come from for programs that you offer? Since you're not asking for the money, I'll put a plug in for both of you. I know you're all about the service, right? But, I think we need to talk about how can we sustain this in these times and beyond the first wave? Where does your funding come from? Who'd like to answer that first?
So our funding comes from the Ministry of Community and Children Social Services, as well as we also get funding from the County of Grey for a second stage residential program. And then, of course, there is the Ministry of Attorney General provides support for us for family court support. And there's always the community. They provide a lot of donations to us as well. So they are already supporting us here.
Excellent, excellent. And they can donate online or donate. Do you accept items like household or?
So currently we are taking donations online through Canada Help, or simply go through to our website, thewomencencenter.org, and you can make the donation there. We also certainly are taking items, but just at this point in time would say food items, non-perishable food items.
Yeah.
And gift cards are always welcome for food stores, whether it's supermarkets, things like that.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And as well for you, Phyllis.
So we're 100% funded by the same ministry as funds the women's shelters. And so my appeal to the community is not so much about money. We do use fundraised dollars to support a summer camp program and winter warmth program. So some very specific programs that help families who financially experience some insecurity. But I would say to the community, be generous to places like the United Way, the food banks. Be generous to organizations that are serving people in this extraordinary time. Be generous to the women's shelters because whether the demand is up or down right now, the demand will continue. And as we move through this experience, that extra support, if you are privileged like I am to be an essential worker and to have no disruption to income, be generous in whatever way you can so that the community continues to be strong.
Well said. I want to thank both of you for being on the program. Our time is up, and I really do thank you for being here. You're welcome back anytime to talk about your services.
Thanks, Karen.
My pleasure. Both of you take care of yourselves too. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us here on the special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program. Please take care, stay safe, and care for each other. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media. This is Rogers TV, Grey County.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina of Homebodies Fitness. Join me for your at-home fitness routine. Let's all get fit together. Only on Rogers TV, Homebodies Fitness.